Today we're going to go ahead and start talking about how we can utilize our foundation and how important the foundation is to your mentality, your ability to be yourself, and to overcoming your challenges. So when we're focusing to become who we want to be, when we're going through the challenges that we're going through, we have to ask ourselves what we're seeking out. What is the things that you want to do? What is the things that you want to become? And what are the things that you want to manifest? So if you're finding yourself in a place where you're having a difficult time, and I know, at least for myself as well as other people, that they seek it out in others. So they seek out, things and places that are not within them. So if we're looking inside of ourselves, if we're looking inside of our ability, and these people are not coming closer to our foundation, then we have to ask ourselves, is this thing a positive thing in my life? Is this person or this place or this challenge that I am facing off against bringing me closer to myself? And so if we look inside of ourselves, if we look inside of how and what other people would need for us, but yet they're not willing to do the same for you, then what we're looking at is your foundation is not solid. You have to actually look at yourself. You have to actually sit down with who you are. You have to get to the place where you focus, and I mean truly focus, and truly utilize the challenges that you face off against. Now, some of those times, if you find yourself losing the ability to rest, losing the ability to function, because these types of things are not bringing you closer to yourself, they're not bringing you closer to your ability inside of who you are, they're not bringing you closer to focusing into positivity, then you have to allow it to move out of the way. So you have to also believe in yourself that you can do it and that you can achieve what you want to achieve. So if something moved out of your way in the past, there's a reason why it did. So if you're sitting down following things that at a certain time you identified were not positive, were not bringing you closer to yourself, were not bringing you closer to elevating yourself to the point where you can become a tool within the universe, then realistically what's going on inside is that you're shutting down the things that are actually bringing you up. You're bringing things that are not positive into your life. And so one of the ways that we do that is the way in which we treat other people. Okay? So when we put ourselves in a place where we leave them on the side, yet when they're focused in having you as a part of their path, when you start to chase after things that are no longer that person, when you start to chase after places that are no longer serve you, that are no longer helping you to elevate, and you start seeking out things that are external, you start to lose the person that you are inside. You start to lose a part of who you are. You start to feel like what you're going through and the challenges that you're facing off against are stopping you. So how do we start to put ourselves on a page with focus as a foundation? So if we are seeing other people calling out things that you've decided in your life are positive, you've decided on your life that are bringing you closer to being a light in the world, that are bringing you closer to being something great, then you don't need to chase after things that are taking you away from that. So if you, in some sense, ghost somebody who is actually uplifting you, then at a certain point inside of themselves, they're going to find that their foundation doesn't allow that to happen to them anymore. So if you are creating a set of habits, if you're creating a set of goals, if you are creating a path in which you're moving forward, and people are not seeking after that same path, at a certain point, those need to end. So if this is what you're seeking out after, then you got to ask yourself, are you truly seeking out positivity? Because when you start to seek out positivity, you don't seek out addictions. You don't seek out things that are going to ultimately end, that are going to ultimately destroy beautiful things, and you don't seek out things that will bring you away from being yourself. So if you're facing off against challenges, and I know a lot of us face off against stresses, and this is the reason why a foundation is important. If you're facing off against things that you don't feel like you know if you can overcome, and you feel that you're not sure inside of yourself, then what you're truly looking at is the mere fact that you haven't given yourself time to sit down by yourself, right? So if you're seeking it out and you're chasing after it in other people, if you're putting yourself in the place where what they think matters, then you're not bringing yourself closer to who you are on the inside. So if you want to seek the light, seek the light. If you want to be a light in the world, be a light in the world. You know, one of those ways that I'm starting to find is important is get up early and go to bed early. You know, I've been on a constant path of staying up late and going to bed late and not getting up early. So I have to look inside and recognize that you need ample rest. You need the ability to sit down with yourself. You need the ability to not allow the emotions to be as great as you are. You need the ability to put your mentality first, to put your ability first, to put your ability for those challenges to not have the ability to overcome you. So this is where we focus. We focus at that point is how we start to create a foundation. So when you start to create a solid foundation, you're going to want to write down a game plan. You're going to want to sit down and start to figure out how you're going to use your tasks, your goals, your abilities, and your mentality. You're going to want to put yourself in a place where you stabilize your being to the point where you have the ability to overcome your challenges. So this is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about where the foundation is, where what you're going through does not have the ability to stop you. So if we're focusing to that point, if we're using those kinds of challenges, if we're putting ourselves on that kind of page, if we're putting ourselves with that kind of ability, then what the results should start coming out is an able mentality. Now, I know that I grind on this on a daily basis. I know that I work at this every single day. I know that what we focus on, we get to manifest. I know that when we focus to the point where the things that are not meant for us move out of the way, we start achieving a level of success that shows a level of reflection of motivation. So, if we're putting our mentality into that place, if we're putting our ability into that place, if we're putting our level of focus into that place, where we allow ourselves to utilize what we have inside, to utilize what we're going through, the challenges that we're facing off against, and the things that we want to become blessings, then a mentality starts to open up as a foundation. Now, if you're looking at the question of why somebody would do something, then what you need to look for is already within yourself. It's within who you are. It's within your structure. It's within your being. And it's in a way of your mentality that you start to utilize your ability inside of who you are. You start to utilize your ability to believe in yourself. You start to utilize your ability to be yourself. You start to utilize your ability to understand yourself. So when somebody shakes your foundation, okay, you got to seek out that ability to bounce back, that ability to overcome that by seeing and identifying with exactly what's going on. So, are we giving ourselves that place of focus? And the interesting part about that is that a part of doing that is putting yourself in a place where you are not going to allow that to happen again. And by doing so, by allowing yourself to get to that place where you give yourself the ability to overcome your challenges, you give yourself the ability to overcome the things that you're going through, you give yourself the ability to focus to the point where you are manifesting from within, where you're manifesting from within your being, where you focus through your challenges. So when you're putting yourself on that page where it's important to overcome these things, okay? It's important to overcome the challenges that you're facing off against. It's important to believe in your ability to focus to the point where you can create your own foundation, where you can become solid inside of yourself, and where you can believe in yourself and your ability inside of you to the point where your foundation is solid. So that is the reason why we need to have those kind of structure, that kind of mentality, that kind of ability inside of ourselves, is so that we don't have our structure shaken, so that we don't have, sleepless nights, so that we don't have things that, we're facing off against that, we feel that these type of things are not giving us the ability to grow. So when you're going through challenges, remember that they're not permanent. They are temporary. They're not there to stop you. They're there to help you to grow. They're there to help you to manifest. They're there to help you to get through the challenges that you face off against. The things that you're going through are meant to teach you the lessons to get you to the place where you start to believe in yourself. You start to believe in your path, and you start to believe in your journey. So as you start to separate yourself from those challenges, and you start to take the path, the higher path, the enlightened path, the path that is going to bring you the best outcome, that's going to bring you the best purpose, the best journey. You're going to have to recognize that sometimes it's going to be difficult. Sometimes it's going to take your mentality being tested, your ability inside of yourself to start to see that it's your foundation that's important. It's what you focus into. I often talk about our foundation as, what are you focusing? What are you growing through? What are you going through? How are you creating a foundation? And this is that foundation, what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, what are you focusing into? What are you putting your energy into? What are you putting your ability to start getting motion into? And how are you starting to open yourself to the ability that you can overcome your challenges? That you can truly be who you are on the inside? That you can take the enlightened path and not a dark path that's going to take you down a dark place, that's going to hold you back from being who you are on the inside. So if we allow those things, and I say this a lot, I say this so much, and it makes perfect clear sense, that we have to allow the things that are not positive in our lives to move out of our way so that the positivity can move into our lives. And it's going to take a lot of focus, it's going to take a lot of foundation, it's going to take a lot of you building a structure to the things that you will and you won't do. And it's inside of ourselves that we seek this place. It's inside of ourselves that we seek this mentality. It's inside of ourselves that we seek this level of ability, and this is how we start to overcome challenges, with the mentality that we can do it, with the ability that we can believe in ourselves, with the ability that what we have inside and the things that we want to go through and the people that we want to become and the challenges that we want to face off against, that we can do it. And it's inside of ourselves that we seek that light. It's so interesting that when we're not in a positive place and we're not doing things positively, it's like we know it. We know that we are not bringing those things in our direction. We know that we are not bringing ourselves in such a way that we have the ability to become uplifted, that we're not putting our mentality into a place where we have the ability to overcome our challenges. And I I want you to recognize that if you create a foundation and somebody shakes your foundation, then the thing that actually is being shaked is your level of focus. What is actually being shaked is your level of ability inside of yourself, your level of mentality, your level of being who you are on the inside. So, if we are wanting to embrace ourselves, if we're wanting to become who we are on the inside, if we're wanting to seek after that, we realistically need to be seeking after things that are uplifting us and bringing us into a place where we're not going in a downward spiral. And it's only when we see other people going into those places, into those things, that we recognize that our own level of focus and our own foundation has to stay strong. So, it's when we believe in ourselves is one of the most difficult things that you'll ever have to do, is believe in yourself. Believe in your ability. Believe that you can make it through the things that you're going through, the challenges that you're facing off against, the ability inside of yourself to be who you are on the inside. And it is important that we do that. It is important that we understand that it's not going to uplift somebody if they bring you into a part of their structure and then you go and shake their foundation. Okay? It's not going to bring you closer if what you're doing is shaking the person that they are inside. Asking them, pushing boundaries for your own joy. And if you're seeking out to be close to them, if you're seeking out to want to have that kind of people around you, then go for it. Because this mentality, this ability, this challenges that are faced off against, that I'm going through and I've been going through for more than a year, these things that you might be going through out there, if you're relating to what I'm talking about, these things that, either you can choose to be positive or you can be a negative force in the universe, they recognize certain things. They recognize certain reasons. They recognize certain purposes. They recognize certain paths. They recognize certain journeys. And our mentality senses that. It will actually detect that part of yourself. It will detect that part of your being. It will detect that part of your ability inside of you if you are not seeking after it, or if you are. And the way in which it does that is it will show itself through true success, through true motivation. And so when you start to see those kind of challenges, write them down. Put those kind of challenges on paper. Put those kind of challenges into the ability for you to ask yourself the questions. Put those kinds of challenges to the test. Put them to the place where you start to ask yourself those types of questions, where you're not going to accept those type of things happening to you. And so the ability inside of oneself to focus to that place where the wealth comes from within, okay? Wealth, true wealth, comes from within. It comes from a place where you start to believe in yourself, you start to believe in your abilities, you start to sit down with yourself. You're not looking for a paycheck from somebody else. It's when you start to create your paycheck. It's when you start to face off against your challenges. It's when you start to acknowledge that these things are not positive in my life, and I'm not going to chase after those things. I'm not going to put myself in that kind of place. I'm not going to put myself through those kinds of challenges. I'm going to put myself in a place of mentality, a place of ability, a place of focus where we're utilizing it to the place where we're using it as a foundation, where what we're listening to matters, what we're speaking out matters, what we're seeking matters. And so, what is it that you're seeking after? What is it that your attention, your energy is into? And how you truly want that part of yourself to grow? How do you truly want your being to be? How do you truly want your results to come out? And so, are we doing that? Are we giving ourselves that kind of a place? And are we putting ourselves in a place where those challenges we have the ability to overcome? So I want you to recognize this. I want you to hear what I'm saying. If you're hearing this message, that what you focus into is going to be the end result. What you focus into is what you're going to get. If you're going to focus into things so that way you can seek after things that are not going to bring you uplifting, that are not going to increase your life, that are not going to increase your health, then don't be surprised if the results come back that your health is not well, that your being is not well, that your presence is not well, that your spirit is not well. And that talks about multiple levels. That talks about mentality. That talks about physicality. That talks about the being that you are inside and how you utilize it. So, if you want to overcome that, are you seeking after what's bringing you in that direction? Are you putting yourself in that kind of a place where you are utilizing it, where you are utilizing that ability inside of you, and are you giving yourself the ability to overcome those kinds of challenges? And are you putting yourself in the place where you are overcoming them with positivity, with a positive mentality, with a positive ability inside of oneself? And so, this is what I'm talking about today. I'm talking about the challenges that we're facing off against, that it's not necessarily there to stop you, because when you start to speak your mind, when you truly start to be who you are on the inside, when you truly start to achieve a level of success where the foundation inside of yourself starts to build, you're going to want to have self-study at that point. You're going to want to be inside of you. You're going to want to be clear. You're going to want to study the person inside of who you are. And so, when we look at the inwards journey, when we're looking at what we're facing off against, when we're looking at how we are going to overcome it, when we're looking at what we're going to put into it, what we're going to work with, what we're going to grow through, to focus on, to put our mentality into that kind of place where you start to become the student in your life, where you start to use that foundation in such a way that when the challenges come, you have the ability to overcome them. You have the ability to work through them. You have the ability to get through the things that nobody else could do for you. And the mentality that we have is that the ability inside of ourselves wants to overcome pain, fear, and emotions. It wants the person that you are inside to become the student and to learn from yourself, learn from your emotions, your pains, and your fears. So, are you giving yourself that kind of place to do so? Are you giving yourself that kind of ability inside of who you are? Are you giving yourself that kind of ability in your mentality? And it's inside of this place, inside of who we are, that we focus to overcome these kinds of challenges. It's with that kind of place and that part of who we are inside that we have that ability to manifest our being, to give ourselves the ability to overcome challenges in such a way that we focus to the point where inside of ourselves it opens up. And a lot of times those things are decompressed through doing so. They've become compressed inside of ourselves. They've become compressed in part of our being. They've become compressed inside of ourselves to the point where we look inside and we are seeking out that. And we're focusing through that. And we're putting ourselves on that page. And we're going through those kinds of challenges. And we're putting ourselves through those kind of mentalities. And we're putting ourselves in that kind of ability. So it's inside of ourselves that we seek out that place. And it's inside of ourselves that we seek out that mentality. We seek out that ability inside of who we are to believe in ourselves, to believe in our path, to believe in our journey, to believe that we can do what's inside of who we are. And when we focus to that point where the knowledge becomes available, then the student inside of yourself starts to learn. The student inside of who you are starts to open up. The student inside of who you are starts to use your mentality. It starts to use your knowledge, the enabling to overcome your pains, your fears, and your emotions. Those things start to become available. So that is where we look inside of who we are. Now, when we utilize that knowledge, when we sit down at that point, when we sit down at that ability, when we sit down at those types of challenges and we start to look at what is actually going on, and we're looking at what we're facing off against, and we're looking at what challenges we're going through and what we're growing through, the knowledge inside starts to become your friend. It starts to become a part of who you are. It starts to become a part of your understanding. It starts to become a part of your ability. It starts to become a part of your mentality. And your knowledge inside is quite liberating. It is quite liberating when you use the knowledge that you have inside of yourself. When you use the knowledge that you have inside of yourself and you start to put yourself on a page where you know you. And inside of knowing yourself, you get these little ahas. Okay, this happened because of this. This challenge came because of this. This happened so this could happen. This thing starts to happen, so this is bringing me closer to this. This brought me to this. This is the reason why I feel this way. This is the reason why I went through this challenge. This is the reason why I put myself into that place where I focused to that point, where I utilized that ability inside of oneself, where I focused to the point where the mentality has the place, the ability inside of one's being to put oneself on that page. And it takes a place within you. It takes a mentality within you. It takes an ability inside of yourself. It takes the permission for you to be that person inside. And to know that person to that level, to gain that level of growth, to gain that level of ability, to gain that level of investment within you, to gain that level of manifestation, that level of vibration, that level of focus, where the being inside of you opens up. The person inside of you starts to use that foundation and that knowledge at that level, at that part of yourself, at that part of your being, at that part of your mentality. And it is in that way that when you're going through those kind of things, your knowledge starts to open up. It's when you become that kind of gift within the universe that the Most High God has no choice but to recognize you, to acknowledge your light, to acknowledge your existence, to acknowledge your being, to acknowledge your path, to acknowledge your purpose, to acknowledge the person that you are inside. So, if your mentality starts to go after that, if your ability, your knowledge, and you know that you can grow from within, you know that you can grow past your challenges, you know that you can be the person that you want to be inside of who you are, and you want to believe in yourself, sit down and breathe. Sit down and use that knowledge inside to free you. Sit down and use those reasons why the challenges that you faced off against, that you might have failed at, you need to continue to fight that positive war. That positive ability inside of yourself. That positive ability inside of your mentality, that knowledge and that focus within oneself. See, that's how you can tell you're truly talking to someone who's a teacher. When they talk to you and it vibrates within you. When you know the challenges that you face off against, you can overcome. That person might possibly have something special that you can hear. And at the end of this, I'll be doing energy readings for those who are actually seeking energy readings as well too. And when we're putting ourselves in a place where the mentality within ourselves starts to open up, the mentality within who we are starts to open up. So I was just asked this question: what is an energy reading? An energy reading has to deal with understanding the energy that we have inside of ourselves and what energy we utilize on a daily basis. And what I mean by this is, what type of energy do you attract yourself because you use? This can be depth perception. Do you stand your ground? Do you give yourself the ability to voice yourself? Do you use your heart? Do you use your mentality, blessings? Do you use your ability inside of yourself to overcome your challenges? So, I talk about motivation, meditation, and inspiration. And the last part of this speech has to deal with inspiration. I have been doing meditation. So I was just asked a question, actually, in Periscope. They actually said, you should go to Bali to do meditation. The place to do meditation is always within you. This place where you are, this place where knowledge and focus lays, this place inside of yourself, it's ultimately seeking you as the classroom. It seeks out three things: focus, knowledge, and discipline. The reason why discipline is the most important piece was like when I spent 5 hours inside of a sauna without walking out of the sauna. See, or the person that I helped with stage 4 metastasized cancer to free themselves, and they got to choose the day that they left this earth. This is the type of mentality that I'm talking about. You can connect with my Periscope, my YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I have quotes from doing meditation. I have videos. I have nearly 300 videos that I've put out. And so, if you want to connect with yourself, and another person in the Periscope said, if you want to connect with yourself, you need 3 things. You need focus, you need knowledge, and you need to apply that in a place of discipline. When focus and knowledge are together, discipline comes. And the creator of this universe created it in such a way that he gave a left and a right hand. And when he gave those to you, he puts you as a center, as the classroom. So to become present within oneself requires using the skills that we used in school. It requires sitting down and writing things down, sitting down and studying, sitting down and giving yourself the time that a lot of us neglect. And that is how you start to become connected and centered within your being. And it's with that kind of decompression that the discipline that becomes applied has a reflection of inspiration. See, because we're not meant not to inspire other people. We're not meant to put ourselves in a place where we're not giving ourselves the ability to grow. We're not meant to put ourselves in a place where we're not believing who we are. We're meant to be in a place where we go to high lengths, we go to high distances, we overcome and we achieve goals, we overcome things and we manifest things into our lives. So, and inside of ourselves, inside of what we seek, inside of what we want to become, inside of what we're facing off against, inside of who we want to be inside, the part of who we are is what starts to open up. The part of who we are uses our focus and our knowledge to the place where you become the center of it. This center, whatever you do in your center, that's your discipline. Use it just like a classroom. You know, is that your classroom? Is that your center of study? Is that your center of mastery? Is that your center of ability? Is that your center of being? And a lot of people become detached because they don't center themselves. They allow destabilizing things to come up, destabilizing people to come in. They allow destabilizing situations to happen, and then they neglect the thing that matters themselves. They neglect their ability inside of themselves. They neglect the ability inside of themselves to focus past the challenges, to focus past the pains, the fears, the mentality. And are we doing that to ourselves, or are we uplifting others by the way that we're being, by the things that we're going through, by the challenges that we're facing off against? And is it something that we are seeking? Come here, honey. Is it something that we're putting ourselves into? Is it something that we're focusing through and growing through and applying our study to a place of mastery, a place of ability, a place of being, a place of purpose, a place of journey? And when we do that, when we get known for continuing when other people would give up, when we get known for doing things that nobody else can do and achieving things nobody else will, when we start to get to that place, when we start getting that part of our purpose, that part of our journey going, when we start to seek out that type of person, we start to seek out that type of journey, that type of path, the universe eventually will start throwing yields at you. It will start throwing things at you so you can believe in you. It will start throwing things at you so that you can see that you can do it, so that you can achieve it, so that you can overcome it. It will start to root for you. If you want to achieve that kind of champion in your life, if you want to be that kind of light within your being, if you want to have that kind of purpose within who you are, if you want to have that kind of belief in yourself, in your path, your journey, your purpose, then become disciplined. Become that light. Become that person inside of who you are. Become that place that no matter when things are working for you or things are working against you, your focus and your knowledge is still applied. Your ability inside of yourself is opening up. Your challenges are starting to become overcome. Your mentality starts to become a part of who you are. Your ability inside of yourself starts to happen. People start to seek you out. They start to want you to help them. They start to want you to be a part of their circle. They want you to be a part of their being. They want to spend time with you. And so, are we doing that? Are we doing that for ourselves? Are we giving ourselves that place? Are we giving ourselves that ability to believe that we can achieve it, and knowing that we can achieve it, knowing that we can become it, knowing that we can utilize it, knowing that we can overcome it, knowing that we can be that person inside of who we are. And so, if you're going through challenges today, if you're going through things today, use your focus and your knowledge. Become connected to yourself. Become a part of who you are inside. The hardest trait to work with is self-honesty. And the easiest trait to work with is lust. We need to seek out, my friends, focus and knowledge. We need to seek out our path, our purpose, our journeys. We need to seek out reaching higher levels, being greater people. We need to seek out overcoming addictions and overcoming things that might hold you back. We need to seek out believing in ourselves and believing in our dreams and believing in our paths and believing in our purpose and believing in the light inside of who we are. We need to seek out that part of ourselves. We need to seek out that part of who we are inside, and we need to put ourselves in that kind of a place where we utilize it. See, I'm looking at a challenge that I'm going through right now, and as I reflect back at how I've been treated through that challenge, I recognize that it's a beautiful thing, because if I didn't have challenge, I would not have something to overcome. I would not have a way to embrace my own mentality, to embrace one's own ability, to embrace one's own being. And it's inside of ourselves that we seek it. It's inside of ourselves that we are achieving it when we believe to that level in ourselves. See, discipline is just being you. It's simple as when it becomes applied. You are disciplined in walking or talking or breathing. Do you master it is the question that needs to be asked. Do you recognize even the simplicity of your own breath? Do you recognize the simplicity of the being within you? Do you recognize the simplicity of your journey, of your ability to overcome your challenges, to put yourself in a place where you're utilizing that person inside of who you are? And it takes discipline, is what it is. It's you. It's yourself. It's self-knowledge. It's self-focus. It's being oneself and continuing to be who you are, to explain the reasons why to people you are the way you are. Explain to people why the challenges that you go through are the reason why you go through your challenges. Explain to people why the things that you face off against and why the reason those things happen. So, are we giving ourselves that ability to overcome challenges at that level? Are we giving ourselves that ability to overcome challenges with that level of mentality, that level of discipline to where you become an inspiration. Because I'm telling you, when you become that, when you get to that place where you're using that, other people seek you out. Other people start seeking you out. They start asking you questions like how and when and what and where and how did you gain that strength? How do you gain that level of mentality? How do you gain that ability inside of yourself? How do you gain that being inside of who you are? And we each have that inside of ourselves. We each have that inside of who we are, inside of our abilities to be who we are on the inside, the ability to be who we are and face off against the challenges that we face off against. And it's inside of ourselves that we are seeking approval. It's inside of ourselves that we're seeking inspiration. It's inside of ourselves that we're seeking a foundation. We're seeking a light. We're seeking a purpose. We're seeking a path. It's inside of ourselves that we're growing, either in a positive direction or a negative direction. Now, if you know you're going in a negative direction, seek out positivity, seek out the ability, seek out that place of discipline, seek out that place of being, seek out that place of ability, seek out that place of understanding, seek out that higher road for oneself, seek out that higher road for one's being, for one's purpose, for one's path. Seek out that higher road for the ability inside of yourself. Seek out that higher road for the ability inside of one's mentality. And seek out that higher road for the light inside of you. That it might shine bright, that it might be a star, that you might be a shooting star in the sky, that you might just be a shooting star in this world, that you can believe in yourself to that point to where what you're facing off against, you have the ability to overcome. And it will become overcome. It will become a part of who you are. It will become a part of you overcoming your challenges. And it will become a part of you overcoming the things that you're going through. And it will become a part of you believing in yourself and believing in your dreams and believing in your abilities and believing that you have what it takes inside of you to be you. That's how you become a part of your being. And when you become present inside of yourself, when you become aware, when you become that light, when you shine in such a way that you have the ability inside of yourself to be that light in this world, to be that light within oneself, to be that light within one's purpose, within one's path, within one's journey, it opens up your mentality and it opens up your ability to be who you are. And this is the part where I close the speech for my podcast. I have my YouTube set up and my Periscope and Twitter. So as it closes here, if there's any questions that you guys have here, so I was just asked this question. where can we find you? My website is motivationmeditationinspiration.yoga. All one word, motivationmeditationinspiration.yoga. And you're welcome to call in now if you want to get any energy readings done. Now would be the time to call in. I do see that there's 3 people in here. I will share a little bit about how I came across being able to read energy. I started doing meditation at 27. And I did 3.5 years of telesales, 2.5 years of car sales, and 5 years of driving people, nearly 14,000 rideshare trips between Uber and Lyft. Which means that I've worked with over 100,000 people. So when I started to want to seek out meditation, I was working for Chrysler selling cars. And as I was working for Chrysler, I was trying to seek out the expression of what blush. I could not understand how people could actually light up when somebody comes around them. I asked myself, is it possible to reach a place where you blush on your own will, on your own being, on your own path, on your own purpose? And so, you guys got to call in to get your energy readings. But I already read your reading, Jimmy. So, as I was working with that, I soon realized that I could actually see the energy inside as I was inside the sauna. So I started communicating with people exactly where they were. So as I was working with that, I started to continue to the point where I started to understand the energy inside, but also was able to talk to people about their own challenges. So I did that for quite a while till I moved to Arizona. When I came to Arizona, I sat down one day and I said, hey, let me go ahead and try this. Now, I did 7 people's energy readings within an hour. That amount of energy used, actually the next day, I was dropped dead. I was just exhausted beyond point. So there is a value there. Hello.
Hey, good morning. How are you?
Blessings. How are you doing?
I'm well. I'm happy to see you again. I'm thankful that you are pointing us in the direction of where we can find you come the end of March.
Yeah. Well, I also have my podcast as well, too. I remember we talked before, right?
Yeah, you said I'm yellow.
Yep.
What does that mean?
What does yellow mean?
Yeah.
So, the yellow energy field is a place where a lot of singers are too, which we already talked about this, but I'm just going to give the other viewers that are in here a little bit of the breakdown of what it actually means. So, the place where, okay, so within the energy fields within a human being, each energy field has to deal with every part of you in a different way. Your ability to see, your ability to have depth perception, your ability to see into the future, to be able to see, is related to that purple energy field. The ability to stand your ground and to have the ability to fight and to do stuff like that, that has to deal with the red energy field. So if you're seeking and you see a person around you that is actually using a type of energy, that may be the energy inside of themselves that is actually the most dominant energy, and that is the place where they need to seek to apply that energy so they can use that to overcome the things in the other energy fields that might be holding them back from transcending within the being. And what I mean by that is when you recognize your strengths, your ability to overcome your weaknesses come from you embracing your strengths. So the place where thought process comes from happens to be the yellow energy field. So that's the actual place where worry, that's why when people are worried, their stomach starts to boil up and stuff like that. And even bile is yellow. So that is where that kind of energy comes from. And a lot of those people that use that kind of energy have that kind of ability, because if you go online and you pull up yellow energy field, like, let me just go ahead and do that here. You can get a little bit of like what Wikipedia and other things would actually talk about here. Let me see here. Okay. Let me pull it in. Like, for instance, there are a lot of people that are yellow that are also shy. Okay? It's because they're always trying to figure out how to do something. They're a lot of them become managers. They use their thought process in such a way that the entire being utilizes the thought process. Do you get what I'm saying? You ever seen somebody that just,
Yes.
anywhere they go, they think? Like, this person's thinking about this situation before it even happens. But then you can tell the difference between who somebody thinks about it, who somebody actually can see to that depth. Do you get what I'm saying? These are different energy fields.
Yes, I understand that.
So, just understanding, like, for instance, that yellow energy, that understanding that the first understanding is that every energy is beautiful. It's how you apply it that is where you start to see the motion. So a lot of people don't recognize the word emotion because it is two parts. There's an E and then there's motion. So that E stands for energy. Where is your energy going into motion? So each energy field that we have inside of ourselves goes by that same thing too. Where we have blockages inside, where we have challenges inside of ourselves, physically, mentally, and even including physically. Like, I remember sitting inside the sauna and cross-legged on certain days with certain mentality. I wasn't able to cross my legs. But yet I had been doing this for years. And it has to deal with the mere fact that what we focus into is what's going to happen. It's just a result. And a lot of people are surprised when the results come back not the way that they're seeking. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I understand what you're saying. I mean, I have no difficulty in manifesting what I'm feeling and thinking. I was just curious about the differences and between a yellow color and perhaps other colors.
Sure. Okay, so one of the ways that you can tell the different colors is by the people that you have around you. Realistically. On a yellow, you're going to get along with people that are bikers, that are doing all kinds of stuff, that are in all kinds of stuff that they really want to fight. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yes. Why
Now,
is that?
that's because that's a red energy field apply. So the yellow and the red are right next to each other because it goes red, yellow, green, blue, purple, and then white. And that white is in every human being. First thing, all of these energy fields, there's no exclusion on a human being. They're all the same. So all of us have that energy inside of ourselves. And even the white energy field isn't like that we would think about it, not as the color white. It's more like cable TV. It's actual energy, like energy itself. Because it runs your nervous system, and it runs a system that the Indians call the Nadi system.
So why would a yellow person be more, have an affinity toward someone who is red, when in fact these are very different people? What is the benefit for a yellow person?
Because a yellow person and a red person, the yellow person has the ability to think alongside a person that has red energy.
I see.
So, like for instance, a green energy wants to elevate. They want to go upwards. They want somebody who's going to voice themselves from a place of depth perception. So you're seeking out, like, and that's why a lot of the people that you're seeking after are utilizing their heart energy, because you know where your energy is, because it's where it's applied.
Well, you're going to give me things to think about on a rainy day.
Well, yeah, it's a part of every human being, and being able to read that is something that I've been able to do for quite some time. But I also came across a thing that stated exactly that, and let me see if I can find it. It was a quote that actually stated that meditation can open up universal knowledge, and it had a specific name for the knowledge itself that meditation actually opens up. And what I've realized is that I actually opened up that part of that knowledge. So, in other words, that part of that knowledge opened up through sitting down and using self-study, self-focus, the same way somebody would sing or somebody would do music. You know, when you hit notes?
Yes.
After a while, you hit the notes and you keep hitting the notes, and then all of a sudden you hit the note. You know what I'm saying?
I understand.
So it's basically, it's not my knowledge. It's not my knowledge. It exists within the universe is what it is. It exists. It's already here. It's already it already vibrates inside of us, and it vibrates outside of us. It just happens to be that I can see that energy inside. Do you get what I'm saying?
So I have a question. I find a real affinity to listening toward you, but being a yellow person, would that mean that you are putting a lot of red out there? Is there a lot of fight in you?
No, I use a lot of different energy. I use more than one form of energy. I'm I meditate. See, meditation is is a classroom. That's what it is. Like, I had a guy earlier who was saying, "Hey, you need to go to Bali to do meditation." All you need is to close the door to be able to do meditation. You need a little space for yourself. Like if you pick up your guitar or whatever and you sit in a room by yourself and you spend that type of space, that can be used as a form of meditation. It's knowledge being decompressed within yourself. It's creating notes, in a sense. And so these records, these actual records, have a name. They're called the Akashic Records. Is an astral database of every memory and event that has ever occurred, knowledge that isn't in any book. Anyone can read these records with practice through meditation. So there is an actual name for these type of things that I'm using. These energies that I'm reading actually literally come from the Akashic records that exist. They're inside of you. You have knowledge inside of you. It's only that I can understand how to read it through the practice of meditation.
Okay, well, thank you. I appreciate that.
And it was amazing when I found that. It's a blessing, brother. It, it
Well,
real.
I mean, I've heard you only a few times, and part of me feels that you've come from a place of anger and frustration and are seeking calm and serenity. But that sense of fight is there within you when I listen to you. But it sounds more like an echo. It sounds more like a place of from the past, especially the anger part. I don't know why that's there.
Um, we all have a path and a journey, and every lesson that you come across is choosing to bring you towards what you're seeking. So, not only am I putting this out there for other people, and the part of the reason why I know I'll succeed is because I want other people to be uplifted too. I want to sit down on a daily basis and speak my mind to the point where other people that might be facing off or have faced off against the challenges that I've gone through to have a belief in themselves.
Well, that is joyous.
And it is a part of ourselves to have energy and to use it. So if a part of me is being uplifted through, it might be actually a blessing that it is, because I find a joy in helping out other people. Like,
Of course, I think that somebody who is going through turmoil or difficulty or strife would want others not to feel the same, would want others to find a path of calm and peace because you don't want to stay in that place. And leading others out of that place is a noble thing to do. It's a loving thing to do.
well, of course, and you already heard what happened, so it's it's liberating to sit down and to want to share. And the thing that drives me is the law of riches, literally. When you share, you receive. And I think of the time when I was getting ready to sleep in my van, when I had $5 in my pocket, when I gave that $5 to the homeless guy, knowing that the next day I was going to have to sleep in my van.
Have you found that you've
And that was a blessing, though. But this is the great part. It was a blessing. In fact, the next 2 trips that I took, both of those trips, they tipped me more than what I gave. So I have a real connection with that part of the universe to want to share this and help people out.
yes, well, it brings the true self of who you are to the forefront.
And hopefully in other people too. You know, I had a guy in the back of my car one day, and he was crying because he was going through some challenges. And I told him, here's the videos that I have. Here's the things. And he said, I don't believe in. Actually, let me go ahead and grab that too. He said, hey man, this is the guy's name. And then, yeah, you picked me up tonight, and I had to talk down from tears. I don't believe in luck or destiny or any of that, but somebody put me in your car tonight, and I needed that so badly, bro. Thank you for the hug and and the inspiration. So it's that's it. When people like they any angle that that you come from, that is what it's about. It's about using your challenges to uplift other people and to work through your own challenges.
just I'm interested in how you deal with the fire, how you deal with your past fire, how you identify it, how you tame it, and how you are then able to put it aside so that it doesn't burn you, it doesn't scorch you. Because if you come from a place like that, you can always have resentment and anger that carries through your life.
This is a very good question. Are you ready for the answer?
That's why I'm here.
Okay. So, at a certain point, I loved somebody more than I loved myself. And I am completely grateful for the mere fact that I slept in my van. And the reason why I'm grateful that I got down to the level where I was sleeping in my van and I was washing my clothes and I was going through those types of things is because before that time, I did not truly know myself. I was held up by emotion, which is knowledge waiting to be liberated. I was held up by fears. My wife was going to leave me. I was held up by the challenges that were not bringing me closer to being myself. It wasn't till what was going on inside was greater than the challenges that are going on around that I found that through focusing to the point where the ability inside of yourself opens up, that you start overcoming your challenges. And when you free yourself to become your best friend, when you free yourself to find that freedom to actually be the true reflection that we see is called self-love, is self-study. It's self-being. It's being present within this thing. And in the last few weeks, I've started to get a connection with a couple of different words. The first word is emotion. And I think about as energy flows throughout oneself, it is in motion, the energy inside of you. The second word is human being. And a lot of people recognize that they're a human, but they're not the being within themselves. What I'm saying by that is they don't know themselves. Now, I'm not saying that we need to say that we know everything. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is there's a reason why that second part of human exists. And what I'm talking about is becoming present within yourself and using your challenges to embrace them and overcome them.
Well, it does, through your story, sound like you were in a place of pain, not being able to know oneself, and yet be in a situation where one is being left by somebody, having to live in a car, having to be really at the bottom of existence at that point. I mean, you have to then find something, and finding yourself is the door through which you walk, is a powerful first step. What I'm curious about is there must be constantly a trail of red anger that follows, because that affects you, that burns you, and at times that flares up. And at those points, how do you tame that flame? How do you put it aside? Because it just isn't doused. you don't douse that. That is part of your essence.
What I'm trying to say is that energy. See, I meditate. The answer is meditation. Now, I'm not just talking about meditation like sitting down and breathing. That might be playing a guitar, even. The place where I go to get that space is in meditation.
That's a good answer. Thank you.
So that's how you overcome it, is by seeking out the story behind it and understanding the story behind it, so that way you can free yourself. See, emotions are meant to be freed. They're meant to be lessons. You're a student and a teacher in yourself. You have the ability to learn, but you also have the ability to teach too. And every single person does. And you know, the one person that's matters the most for them to be able to learn and teach? Yourself.
Well, it's self, of course.
So self-understanding, self-reflection, self-being, self-purpose, self-path, and self-journey. That's how you overcome those flares.
Thank you.
Anyways, brother, thank you for calling in.
Thank you again.
Yeah. So, that are we able to connect with my YouTube or anything, or did you want to get that, or?
I can find your YouTube, and your information is still here in Periscope, so that's good.
Yeah.
It's just a little down with the idea that Periscope is going away. It's such a great platform, and people dismiss it so easily, but I've always found it a great way to connect. So I was hoping to find a way of rediscovering where you might be, so it's an easy step to walk back in.
Well, yeah, the YouTube channel has it. I'm going to be on Twitter a lot. I'm going to be on, I have Twitch as well. I have a Twitch. I also have a podcast I just started, if you like it through podcast.
What is the name of the podcast?
Motivation, Meditation, Inspiration. It's through Anchor, so you can find it on multiple networks.
Sure.
Like,
By the way, just a side note, how are you enjoying using Anchor? Is it something you like?
I'm finding it really an easy sidekick.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's been great seeing you and hearing you again. It's nice to see you smile.
Oh yeah, it's a blessing, and like, for instance, right now, this video today, if you're able to go back and watch it, it actually talks about foundation and not allowing other people to shake your foundation, and utilizing your values inside that make your foundation what it is. And that's what today's video was about. So.
Thank you. Just curious, are you a cat or a dog person?
Well, that's a very good question. What do you think?
Well, I would hate to choose the wrong one. I'm hoping you're a cat person, but I bet you love your dog.
I love dogs.
Yeah.
So, all right, blessings, brother. I'm going to close this out. It's at about a 1 hour, 30 minutes almost. It was a really great chat. But I'm here if you have any questions. You can also reach me on Facebook. If you type in Motivation, Meditation, Inspiration. Facebook, my big group is almost 166 members, is Discipline 101. Because the goal is to become inspired from each other, to uplift each other, to bring people closer to being themselves, and to becoming attached to their being and becoming a part of their human being. So.
Okay, well, have a nice day, and smile, and give all that love to your dog, and get outside if you can. It's a rainy day up here in Northern California, but I'm sure where you are it might be a little bit more sunny. Looks
All
like the
right.
sun of Arizona's flag is right over your shoulders. That's a nice thing to see.
Yeah. All right, my brother. Blessings and namaste, okay?
Okay. Bye bye.